Welcome. Let's start. Craig Lazarus, who I first met in 1981. Craig, when did you come to Pinecrest, and what have you been up to?
I came to Pinecrest in second grade. I remember when I was in first grade, I spent a day at Pinecrest in Dr. Malco's class, and it was like my audition, I guess. And then went to Pinecrest in second grade. Yeah, all the way through.
And today?
Today, I work year-round for a children's summer camp in Maine. I get to spend 8 months in Florida and 4 months up in Maine during the summer. So it's great.
Yay, Laurel.
And you get to interact with the children of some of our peers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had some of our classmates, kids have come through. A lot of Pinecrest kids have come through. And I was telling Steve the story earlier. One of the things I do at camp is I personally handle all the food allergies. And I was talking to a mom who was from Connecticut that was interested in sending her daughter, but she had all kinds of allergies. And she said, why don't you talk to her allergist? So she gave me the number, and I called her allergist in Connecticut, and it was Aimee Latzman. So I had a bat phone.
Yeah.
And what I remember from what you told me maybe just a few years ago is that you speak mom, which was something I probably didn't envision you saying to me 35 years ago.
Oh, I spent a lot of time talking to moms on the phone. Yeah, it's great though. I love it. Never had to grow up. I wear shorts to work every day.
Now Mrs. Weiss. Wow. All of these years. And we're not in jail at least not now, which against your expectations. Tell us about when you first found your way at Pinecrest and what you've been up to recently.
Surely. I started at Pinecrest as a substitute teacher. John Madden was ill, and I started right then and there. And Mario Pena hired me and had me do a philosophy class that was one period a day, which was a little bit odd, but I did. And that's how I got started at Pinecrest. So I started subbing, and now I'm back subbing. After having retired in 2005, I'm subbing in the middle school and in the upper school and loving doing it.
So how many years in total of service to the school?
Good Lord. Well, it was 29 when I retired, and I've been back subbing for 7 maybe. So, and I do a lot of the testing, SAT testing and ACT testing as a proctor.
Wow.
So they can't get rid of me, at least so far.
Rashid, oh my goodness. I think of you every time I play soccer.
Oh, I haven't played soccer in like 40 years.
That's tennis.
Yeah, tennis is also not very good. So what, you want to know? Okay, so I came to Pinecrest in 7th grade. It was, So first I went to Unity School and we came to America for 2 years, and then I came to Pinecrest. What am I doing now? I own a chain of small self-checkout gourmet markets. So basically a little market with, everything gourmet foods, but no human beings. Open 24 hours a day. You walk in, you pick up whatever you want off the shelf, you scan it yourself, and you walk out. Everything virtually monitored. So we have in Miami, we have in Tallahassee, and we're hopefully about to go national. So that's what I'm doing.
Mr. Ivanoski, I used to be so afraid to walk in your class that I'd get a work detail.
I came in 1982, and Richard Palmacio got me the job, and I was interviewed by Bill McMillan and Mario Pena, and they hired me, oddly enough. And I don't know, I just enjoyed the heck out of it. Here's a story. The first person I met at Pinecrest was Bill Rousseau, and he was just a great guy. And I had driven 24 hours straight from Massachusetts down to here, and I found the campus, and Bill Russo was there, and he there was on the west campus. There was like a park, with a boardwalk. I don't know if it's still there anymore, but he was there, and I bumped into him all those years ago.
Wow.
So, I owe really all to Richard. I mean, who I still keep in contact with. Richard still comes every summer. He's here for 5 weeks, and I've known him since I was 21 years old.
Wow.
And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
And you're still involved in Pine Crest, and at least you're doing tutoring for students of some of our former students and whatnot.
Yeah, it's weird that I have some kids that I had have their kids. I'm sure they don't want to be. It's really neat. It's really neat. These kids I've got are pretty smart kids, and they understand me, and I understand them, and I like them, and I hope they like me. That's about it. It's very simple.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Aimee, so good to see you.
Thank you. You too. All of you guys.
You were the first face I would see every single morning driving to school.
Yes. All right. So I came to Pine Crest in 1980 for 5th grade. I had Mr. Byers, and I think, Craig, were you in my class?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And we had just moved down from New York to Florida. And I, of course, stayed all the way through 12th grade. And I now am living in Westport, Connecticut, and I am an allergist in private practice. And just, sort of always trying to juggle the between being a parent and being a doctor. So, like all of us, I guess, just it's like that crunch. It's sort of that busy time of life. So,
Wow.
but I have lots of amazing Pine Crest memories.
We'll get to them. Richard,
Hi.
you're not in California anymore. That's not good for me.
I know. I just left California right at the start of lockdown, and I'm now in Colorado, and I've seen my living room, but I haven't been outside at all. And I have some really great COVID hair to share. I came to Pine Crest in 1986 as a junior. I had been at a school in Texas that, let's say, I outgrew. I wasn't forced to go, but I wasn't given a lot of choices to come back. And my punishment was to be sent to this lovely little school in Fort Lauderdale filled with people that are still very close friends today that I hold very dear. So, not everything in life is a punishment. And since then, I have founded a lot of startups that have done cool things. You probably know some of them. And now I'm an advisor to a lot of startups and hoping to share mentoring with people who have youth and energy when I have less. And so I spent helping young people get their startups going, find money, hone their ideas, find product market fit. And it's been fantastic.
Huh. So do you remember your first day at school?
I do. I remember going to get my ID, and there was this lovely woman kind of checking people in, and she was maybe the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and it was Cecily Buntrock, who we now all call Charlie. And she and I remain very, very close friends to this day, very close. And she has some story that she tells about the awful thing I said when I met her. But it worked out just fine. We're very close friends. So, I remember that a little bit. I remember feeling very awkward for a few months as I was trying to find my groove. Living in the dorm at Pine Crest was, there were the dormies, and then there was everybody else. And it was a little you know, I wasn't sure where I fit in, and what I really tried to do was fit in everywhere, which is why you and I, Steve, are still close, and I see so many fond faces on this video. I never tried to be in a clique, which I think helped a lot. So by about Christmas time, I felt like I'd been at Pine Crest for 20 years, like the rest of you.
Rashid, do you remember your first day?
Oh yeah, I remember my first day. My first day was an interesting one. It's actually a story I tell quite often, maybe with a few drinks in me, but I think I remember it. Basically, I remember the year before, so it was 7th grade. So the summer before, we were in France, and in France there was this place called this clothing store called Newman. And Newman was let's just say it's a very European store. And, you know, I went with my mom and I said, it's my first day of school. I got to get my outfit. So I get this matching jumpsuit looking thing, yellow pants and shirt. And I had a red and green stripe down the pants and down the arms. And I thought I was the coolest kid in town. I was like, I'm going to kill these guys. So first day of school, I walk in ready to take action before the first bell rings. Some senior grabs me, dumps me in the trash can, and goes, "Don't you ever effing wear that again." I remember going home, and I come off the bus, and my mom's like, "So how'd the outfit go?" I'm like, "Not as good as we expected. It wasn't the hit I wanted, but yeah, the first day was it was funny. Yeah, I mean, listen, there were a lot of people were already together, but hey, listen, it was fun, and finally I wore normal clothes and found my groove, even though I was not wearing the most normal clothes. I think Steve and everyone used to always make fun of me about it, but it is what it is.
Mr. Ivanoski, do you remember your first day at work? Were you also put in a garbage can, or did you escape this indignity?
I don't remember the first day of work. I really don't. I really don't. I remember a lot of kids, you know, from that era. Jamie Raskowski, Lanny Wolf. Just good memories. And it was fun.
What was the first day of class like? When you have a bunch of students coming in your class and you don't know who they are really, maybe you've heard about a few, or were you apprehensive about any particular students, or?
No, I just kind of let them talk. I mean, if they talk, they're going to be okay, I think. I don't know. I enjoyed the heck out of teaching math. I still enjoy solving problems, and I don't know. I just think Richard had the right idea. He said that, you know, you're not the star of the class. The damn subject is the star of the class, and I think that's true. I really do.
What was it?
I got a lot of ideas. I got a lot of ideas from my best friends and stole them. That's what I did.
You were also good friends with Mr. Jacobs?
Yeah, you know, he passed away.
Right.
Tom passed away in November 26, 2016.
Right.
And I still keep in contact with his brothers and his wife. I would say I love Tom.
You know,
that's one thing I want to say before I forget. And the faculty at Pine Crest were just nice people. The Muncies, Leon Bryant, Dale Wadman. I mean, you could just go up and down. Just they were fun to be with. Lunch was fun for me.
And you got to watch your peers grow up from young adults to older adults, just like we've gotten to watch our peers grow up.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. I don't see a lot of kids. I just see one or two from time to time. Then I bump into people.
Right. You know, it's interesting. I went to Mr. Millspaugh's funeral years ago, and Chris Wheeler was with me, and we were in the church looking at the pew with all of the faculty members. All of our teachers were there. And that was the first time I realized that our teachers were real people, and they had friends. They were friends amongst each other, and they had relationships and connections. And that's not how we see it when we're young there. We see you as these authority superheroes or supervillains, depending on the day. And we don't realize that you're normal people with normal lives. And it was really an experience to watch that happen.
Linda, I don't know how normal we are. But
I agree.
thank you for putting us in that group.
Mrs. Weiss, do you have any memorable faculty members or administrators that really stand out in all of your time at the school?
Oh, wow. I go back to the one of the first full classes that I taught was a 7th grade values class.
I was in that class.
Yay! All right. And at that time, Aimee, the founder of the school, was still coming in to talk to the students as we read her book, My Life Plus 100 Years. And clearly one of my great memories is that she did that literally until the month before, the 2 months before she died. She had to have a microphone to be heard, but she came. She had to have help to get there, but she came. And that's just a giant memory that I will never forget. What a contribution she made to all of you in that little class.
It was funny because we were young, and I mean, I was stupid, but I remember that specifically, and I still remember that moment, that class, and her coming in, and it really was amazing. And like I said, I don't remember much, but I remember that, and it was very cool. I remember the book; it was white, and I had the little.
Yes, very delicate by that time.
Yep, I think it was 7th grade. Was it 7th grade?
7th grade.
7th grade, right?
And then you still see her an hour later walking around school picking up garbage, because that's the kind of
yes, exactly. And you remember the ethical action definition. That was wonderful.
Thank you. I can't tell you what I had for lunch yesterday, but I can tell you my 7th grade definition of ethical.
I got you.
We had a project at the end, right, where you had to write your 10 values and a page for all. Yeah.
Right. It was like a scrapbook, essentially.
Right.
Yes. And I've run into numerous students who still have that scrapbook. So that makes me very happy.
Hey, Craig, do you remember Edwin Shumway?
Of course. I mean, I started earlier than most of you guys, but we were pretty aware that Edwin was ill, from the time I started in 2nd grade. And, we were told that he probably wasn't going to make it to upper school. So, so just the fact that he was with us our senior year, I remember him playing football because it was one of the things that he always wanted to do. We lost some friends along the way. We had Julie, we had Edwin, we had Juan.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, Colazo, yeah.
And I think maybe going through that kind of made us all closer, because I really do feel I have friends in other grades, but I still say there was just something special about our class.
There definitely was.
Agree.
You work with Edwin on student council, Mrs. Weiss?
I worked with Edwin on many things. In fact, I ended up being your class sponsor kind of at the last minute, which made it, I didn't know all of you terribly well, except for having had you as students, whereas I knew the class of '87 better from having been with them from the 7th grade. But Edwin's father was an investment advisor, and I knew Edwin from the time he was a little boy because his dad was my investment counselor. So we went way back and worked with him in student council, of course, but we were kind of family friends, if you will, for a very long time.
Yeah.
His bench, by the way, is still a prominent fixture in the main quad for the upper school.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear. That's so sweet.
Yep.
Yeah. I think one of the great tragedies of Pine Crest today is I don't know that they have the institutional memory that we have. They probably sit on Edwin's bench every day and have no idea who Edwin was. They don't know who Dr. May was.
Right. Agree.
They don't have the dorms anymore. I mean, there's some big things missing.
That's why more classes need to do videos like these.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah,
Well,
the dorms were this place where you could bring together people from very disparate parts of life. And it was so important to me to meet all those people from very different parts of the world and very different parts of socioeconomic backgrounds and everything else. And I remember Charlie's mom, Cecily's mom, really fought hard when they were talking about closing the dorms, because she said, you know, my daughter's lifelong best friend, she would have never met him if there weren't dorms.
Mhm.
And you know, many of my close friends were dormies. Even the ones I didn't like are now pretty decent fellows now. and you know, there's something about that where you're in close quarters and there's this unity, even if you don't always agree. And you know, the number of times Michael Kamen's beat the living hell out of me. And I'm very fond of Michael Kamen's now. So I mean, you know, it's very strange how that part of Pine Crest is not there anymore.
As a teacher, dorm students were 2, 3, 4 years older, so to speak, in the sense of independence and ability to do for themselves than their classmates who lived at home. They had tons of responsibility that classmates who lived at home did not have, and it showed right away in the classroom.
When you had students come into your respective classrooms, especially when the younger ones, so 10th grade and 9th grade classrooms, were you able to look at any student and say that student's going to become very successful when they're older? Were you able to see the spark early?
I was, and gratefully at that point I was teaching a 9th grade ethics class, they called it. It was a philosophy class, and wow, could you pick them out doing the philosophy class? Yes, indeed. That's absolutely true. They, those who really understood it, zoomed, so to speak, to other great things without question.
Mr. Ivanoski?
God, yes. I'm thinking of this. There was a lead. I remember the Diamond kids. David Diamond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lee, a little kid. Lee
Sanders.
Lee Sanders. Yes.
Sanders. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's it. And wow, was he smart. He was, and
Yep.
Lanny Wolf.
Lanny Wolf. Yeah.
And I got a Brianna Sweetie certificate on my wall. I got nominated for something instead of a restraining order. But I mean, there were just kids that were wow. I mean, you know, they were just fun to be with. And I even have some old T-shirts that these kids gave me. I have one with Maxwell's equations, which when I'm really feeling, I'm not waxing my car, I wear it. It's just fun. It just brings back lots of. Even I got a Pine Crest shirt on, my only shirt.
Rashid, did you do any off-campus trips in your time there?
Well,
I did.
yeah, we did the Disney. You know, the what did they have that at Disney end of the year?
Grad night.
What is that called?
Grad night.
Grad night.
I remember going with Aimee Barber. Wow, what an experience!
If you went with Aimee Barber, then you didn't have to worry about the students. Don't worry about Aimee.
True that.
Grad.
Aimee Barber used
Pierce.
That's right, Mr. Pierce. Well, we used to go to the Model United Nations in Washington.
Oh yeah, I did that. That
That's
was
right.
awesome.
Yeah.
We were Oman one year.
That's right.
I never heard that country. I was like, I'm right there. I'm like, Oman, what's that? They're like, dude, it's right near you. Back to geography class. But remember, we were Oman.
Oman, and they gave us.
Like, we're from Oman. We're going to go outside because we've never seen snow. And we had a break in the Security Council and we all walked outside.
That's right, because it was snowing those years we went. And I remember at the end of the Model United Nations trip, our placard started by saying Oman, and by the end of the trip it said, oh man. We inserted a little H.
we were bad. We were not good.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Barber was our chaperone. And
Mr. Pressman, Mr. Barber.
that's right. Mr. Barber would open up his hotel door, and the smoke would pour out of his hotel room, and he'd show up with his bottle of whatever, and there were congressmen in his hotel room, and he was holding court while we were doing our Model United Nations thing.
Right. Yep.
He was an interesting guy.
Yeah, he sure was.
He lived at 1732 Northeast 56th Street. And 1732 is a square of 3, 1.732.
Oh.
I always
right.
remember Nancy's address was a square of 3. But an interesting guy.
So, Craig, you were
And Craig, when I
okay, go ahead.
no, I was just I think of Craig. I think of Lansdale, Jim Lansdale.
Oh yes,
Connected with Lansdale.
I had an interesting relationship with a lot of teachers at Pine Crest. As we've been talking about all these amazing students and all that, I was usually less amazing, more average student. So, yeah, it was definitely an interesting time. But I had a much better relationship with my teachers than most people like to think I did.
You were also wrestling at Pine Crest athletically.
Yeah, for a few years with Lee Harris was our coach.
That's right.
And, yeah, I wasn't good.
But I remember you loved wrestling even as early as 6th grade. I remember you were into wrestling on the TV. The end.
I used to go to the matches at the Sunrise Musical Theater, and my dad knew somebody backstage who got us in. So I remember in 5th grade we actually went to the wrestling matches. We brought like Eric Kramer, John Sard, Todd Herman, I think maybe Chris Coppola, and we all got to go backstage and meet all the wrestlers and take pictures with.
Stein, was he?
What's that?
Stein. Craig Stein. Was he a wrestler?
Craig Stein.
Yeah, he was a year younger than us. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Rashid, you were a runner and a soccer player.
I did soccer until I think 9th grade. I was a runner. I did track and I did tennis.
Tennis, that's right, Mr. Dodrill.
That was fun.
Yeah, and
I kind of found my way. I found my way through sports. I mean, I was.
That's a nice thing about Pine Crest, though, is you could just play sports to play sports. You didn't have to be the best. There was a no-cut policy. I mean, most of the sports we played to get out of PE and into study hall instead. But but it was still, just being part of the team and not everything being as ultra competitive as it is today.
Yeah, and Aimee, you played tennis too.
Yes, it was Mr. Doddridge to start. Then it was
Doddridge,
Mrs. Riddle. Tennis team together with Mrs. Riddle. I don't know. I did it like 7. The boys and girls were together. We had lots of fun, away matches, trips. It kind of went all year.
Yeah. And the arts. Did anybody do the arts? Well, Richard, you were a thespian. I remember you did a play with Charlie.
I had the lead in the senior musical, Stephen. Come on.
That's exactly right. I should have had an autograph.
I wasn't going to call you out, Steve.
Didn't do their homework. I mean.
Yeah, I did. I was in the Music Man junior year, and I was in Mac and Mabel senior year, and I did all the choir stuff I could handle, and did band for a little while. Yeah, I did arts.
And also, you were the first male cheerleader Pine Crest ever had.
That may be questionable. I think Evan Shumway may have been.
Greg Beach and
right.
And I believe the Miguel Correa, maybe Greg Beach and Miguel Correa, I think were.
Wow, that's right.
I definitely remember that. That was
can't tell you what I had for lunch yesterday, but ask me anything from the 70s and 80s, and I got you.
Yeah, I can tell you exactly how I became a cheerleader. Mr. Harris, the wrestling coach, would make us do hard physical exercise until the first drop of sweat dropped from the ceiling and you could hear it hit the mat. and then we could start practice. But we had to get, a lot of calisthenics in before we could even start practice. And we're in this room. It was a small room over there by the theater. And it was gross. Like, it's a bunch of dudes in singlets, like, working really hard until they sweat. And I looked out the window, and there were these just lovely people in cheerleading outfits. And I thought, what the hell am I doing? and I'll never forget, Mr. Harris says, "'Tis better to have wrestled and lost than to have quit and joined cheerleading."
So,
I remember that. That was good.
any favorite classes you guys took? Any favorite curriculum that we had back then?
I taught for 13 years and before I got into camping full time. And I think that part of the problem with the world today is we don't teach civics anymore. I feel like those classes like civics and philosophy and classes like that really kind of taught us empathy and the desire to learn about other people. And I think that's missing today in the world. And part of it's because the kids aren't learning it in school.
Just to clarify, the middle school at Pine Crest now, or today, has an 8th grade civics class, so to speak. They don't call it that. I think they call it American government or something of that nature. But it's deep, deep, deep into civics. I subbed there for 3 months during a maternity leave 2 years ago, and I was back in heaven. It was wonderful to be back in my history and do all of the current stuff that was going on at that time. So yes, it's being done at least at Pine Crest, that much I know.
What are the students like today compared to how it was when we were there? In terms of sharpness and intellect and curiosity and demeanor?
Oh, that's a setup, Steve.
Greenberg, they're not as devoted a student. They have so many other things on their mind and so many other things that they can be doing and so much social messaging and so on and so forth that academics is a smaller part of their lives than when you all were there. In my opinion.
Yeah, no, I can see that with my kids for sure. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's better or worse, or is it just the times?
It's just the times. Was it terrific fun to teach kids that were so smart that they ran you around the desk trying to figure out how to, teach them? My God, they were so over my head in terms of smart. You mentioned David Diamond. I mean, he was my first example of, oh my God, blew me away. It was that was fun. It was fun to be challenged that way as a teacher.
Did you have any mentors? Did you have a mentor when you were a young teacher at Pine Crest? Somebody at Pine Crest that showed you the way?
I think that Mario Pena was my mentor. Without question, Mario was.
Mr. Ivanoski? Richard, for sure. Richard was someone I looked up to and respected. And plagiarized. He was wonderful. And, in that era, was Nikki Gertz, were the Gertz kids in that era?
Yep. Rick graduated, and then Chris was a year younger, and then Nick was 2 years younger.
I love Nikki. I mean, that poor kid had me.
Their kids are at Pine Crest now.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is he okay? Does Nikki have an illness, or is he all right? Or
I do not know.
You know anything about Nikki Gertz?
No.
Okay. But there were 2 or 3 of them, right?
Rick had 2 sisters, Mary and Mandy, and then Chris and Nick are brothers, and they're all cousins.
Right.
That's right. I think Rick Gertz's daughter, he has a daughter, right? I think
2 daughters.
2 daughters. One of them is in my son's class in 10th grade now.
What about Julie Bucksbaum?
I actually know Julie Bucksbaum still because she married Chris Lunny's brother. Do you remember Chris Lunny?
I do.
Yeah, so Chris Lunny's brother, I used to work for as a young lawyer in Jacksonville, and he brought me home to his house one day, and his wife was Julie Buxbaum. It was shocking, and I still talk to her. They live up in Jacksonville still.
I think I sent you a picture of Chris Lunny and I on Nerd Day. You asked for some pictures of those times, and it was Nerd Day, and I looked like normal. I looked like I always look.
I think we don't view ourselves as people in our 50s. I think we view ourselves as people in our 20s and 30s still. Even though we're the age, I think, Mr. Ivanoski, you were probably only in your 40s when you were our teacher. You must have been...
I started 82, I was like 36.
Right?
36. Wow. It's mind-boggling. I look at myself, I don't like Zoom because I have to look at myself. And I still feel like I used to feel, except my body says otherwise, my mind says otherwise. Even people say otherwise. It's awful.
I'll tell you a funny story that came back to me because of this call. Craig Lazarus and I were in Tony Jaswinski's English class together. And Mr. Jaswinski was nothing but deliberately hard. I mean, he pushed us to things that I just didn't know were important in writing and in crafting and in reading. And Craig sat directly across from me in this horseshoe-like shape. And we were both sort of at the ends of the horseshoe. And one time after reading Moby Dick, the quiz had a question like, on what did Starbuck arrive back to shore or something like that. And I had gotten the answer completely wrong, and I think it was Queequeg's coffin was the answer. And Craig gets this look on his face, and he starts laughing at me. And I was arguing with Tony Jaswinski, and Craig starts laughing, and I was ready to go. So I stood up and I said, is not the point of these quizzes to know that we actually understood the material, not the stupid details? And Craig starts laughing, and I start laughing. I think I was in work detail for a month.
That's because we had a quiz about a week before that on Macbeth, and there was a quote, and my answer was one of the witches, and it was wrong because it was witch number 2.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just empathizing and feeling your pain.
He was such a stickler for details. And I will tell you something great about him. He told me I should go into anything but English or literature. And I got to my college, and my college had, I had entered as a computer science major. And, this was in the very early days of computer science majors at all. And I was already way ahead of anything they could teach me. And I was like, well, shoot, what am I going to do for 4 years? And so I was walking back from that meeting with my advisor, and I passed this beautiful building where students were sitting around these oaken desks reading and discussing. And I thought, well, whatever they're doing, I want to do. And I became a literature major. And I did just fine. And Tony, thanks for telling me I couldn't do it, because I did it. I think him telling me I shouldn't do it made me do it more. And I've never called him Tony in my life until just now, by the way.
Yeah, as I mentioned before, yeah, it's very difficult to call any of our teachers by their first name. I like to tell people, I was talking to Jocelyn Lombardo about this, and I said, teachers are like superheroes or supervillains. They don't have first names. They only have last names, and that's it. That's how it's always going to be. You wouldn't call Superman by his first name. It's not like Bob Superman. It's just Superman.
Clark.
Right. So before we get to a lightning round, I just want to tell you that I'm lucky enough that I'm still around the school. 2 kids have gone through the system now. I've got a sophomore, and I've got a 6th grader. So the first time I came to Pine Crest was 6th grade, where I first met Craig. Although the first person I met was Edwin Shumway, who was the ambassador for the class, essentially. And I've seen the changes, and I continue to see the changes, because it seems like the changes are constantly happening. I can't tell you that I understand why the school does what it does all the time, but it continues to amaze me that the school is as successful as it is despite its challenges. Even with this virus, the way that they have handled this virus is remarkable. I saw a report yesterday from the school. Out of 2,600 students since August on campus, in person, full time, they've had 2 kids test positive for the virus with no spread, including my own son sat behind a child who tested positive last week. My son's in quarantine and tested negative. But after 2 days, within 3 feet of this kid, he didn't get sick because of the way they physically structured these classrooms with the plexiglass and the mask. That even with a student who was sick on campus, there was no spread. They were able to address it. And since August, they've only quarantined 40 somewhat students, and they're teaching on campus, and they're working their way through a very difficult year. It's hard to imagine that they're as successful as they are compared to the rest of the country.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's impressive. So let me ask you a question. So lightning round. For every person gets the same question. If you could sit with a current student or perhaps a new young teacher at the school who has no institutional understanding of how things were, what advice would you give them? We'll start with Craig.
I think the first thing would be just to appreciate what you have there, because you don't realize till you go to college and you sit down with somebody, it's time to write a paper and they don't know how to write a, just being appreciative of what we had. I think the fact that maybe because I started so early, I didn't have the elementary school, middle school, high school experience. I had the same group of friends from second grade straight through that are, still my closest friends in the world. So, make sure that you appreciate that aspect of it. And, I don't know, 2 things I got out of Pine Crest was the ability to write and the best friends I ever had. And that's worked well for me so far.
Mrs. Weiss.
I would tell them to be a sponge. Get as much as you can out of that experience. Do a million different things to see who you really are. Take every class that you take seriously. Soak it all up. It's such a grand opportunity.
How about a faculty member, a new faculty member, a new hire? What would you tell them?
That's a little more difficult. First of all, as a historian, I would say, please be aware of what this place has meant to so many people for so long. Let me walk you through the history of it. Flynn Turner did not know a whole lot of things about lots of prior things that occurred prior to his coming. And it was wonderful to be able to help him to see what it was like back in the day, if you will. And so it was very rewarding for me, and I think it helped him to get his feet on the ground in his really big job.
Rashid.
Look, I think my father always just tell me this education is wasted. I mean, it really is. I mean, you can't tell kids that. I mean, I have a 9th grader and a 7th grader. I think that's what they are. They're ransom. Like I always say we used to hate ransom, and we still, like Pine Crest ransom. But they have this opportunity. But they're not going to get it if you can tell them as much as you want. So. So I try to tell them, the kids, just appreciate what you're getting. Try to pay attention. I think it's very important, like you said, to try to find your passion. I think, again, if you're not that kind of person to get it, if someone told me at that age to find my passion, I was just trying to find myself. I was so confused. I don't know what that there's people who are more advanced. There's people who are, I wasn't, there's mental maturity. Like, I was always looking around like, how the heck does everyone know who the hell they are? I didn't know what the hell was going on. So it depends on where you are on that spectrum. But also, I think with what Craig said, I think it's really, really important today to be empathetic, be kind, those are things that you can say and teach, and it doesn't matter how emotionally or mature you are. That is something that I think is essential whatever age you are, wherever you're going to school, because I think that will make you the person you are. Be kind, be gentle. You're always going to try to fit in. You're always going to try to, but if you can go down that path, that's I think important.
Mr. Ivanoski, what would you tell a student and what would you tell a new young teacher, especially a teacher in mathematics?
I don't know. Seek out an old person and buy him lunch. That's what I think I would do. There was when I first came to Pine Crest, there was an old lady. She was 87 and I was like 38 or 36. Her name was Frida Gonzalez, and she stuck with me. To have friends, you got to be a friend. And I think, go out of your way to be a friend. Just go out of your way to do something right. You don't got to be perfect. You got to be perfectly imperfect. But just have some passion. I think the most important thing in life, tell anybody, my kids, my grandkids, oomph. You got to have oomph. In fact, there's a Broadway show song about that. I think you got to have oomph. That, I don't know. I think the simpler the better.
Aimee, what would you tell a young Aimee today in school?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo some of the same sentiments, but yes, be a sponge. Yes, take advantage of a Pine Crest education. I guess in watching my two high school girls now, what I really appreciated so much was the smaller classes and the accessibility of like these amazing teachers. So, I would say ask questions. There's no unsmart question. Ask as many questions as you want, as you can. Stay after class and ask your teacher more questions. And get to know your teachers, get to know your classmates, be a friend, get to know all your classmates, because you learn so much from, I think, yes, you learn the material. Sure, I loved my math classes. I loved my science classes. I did develop a passion in those fields, but more than you don't remember the math or the science so much. What you remember, what you take with you, are all the life lessons you learned from your teachers and your peers, all your classmates, all the friends. I still have so many Pine Crest friends and Pine Crest acquaintances and Pine Crest, reminiscence and people who I bumped into and became reconnected with throughout life. So that's what made it so special.
Yep.
Richard, what would you tell a person just starting Pine Crest in 10th grade? Here's your big chance.
Mrs. Weiss did it so well. I would say that try everything. It's a small campus, but it's a big campus, and you can join a choir, you can join 8 sports, you can be in a musical, you can do the debate team, you can, and also, I hope it's still part of the school, but there was always a little bit of mischief, at least around me, and the people I respected. It was, we spent a lot of time trying to find the edge of the rules, and I think that made our life a little bit more rich. I remember crawling up the side of the dorm using a palm tree because they locked the TV room and there was an MTV awards show of some kind that we wanted to watch. So we climbed up the outside, went through the window, and unlocked the door to watch an MTV awards show. We would run on the roofs of the buildings because the faculty all walked on the halls below and they had no idea we were up there. And I remember running at great speed on the roofs of the buildings with Juan Colazzo. The mischief that we found on West Campus, it shouldn't be repeated, but I will say that try everything. And just because someone says you shouldn't be a male cheerleader or you shouldn't whatever, doesn't mean they're right. So find some boundaries to that too.
That's great. Listen, I'm really happy you guys took your time to do this. This is really great. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy watching this. It's going to stir loose a lot of memories. I hope they try this for other classes. I think it's going to be wonderful. And I look forward to seeing all of you in person as soon as we're all vaccinated. Which
Hey, before we go, I found the grad night picture. I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not.
Oh my god!
Oh,
look
my
at
goodness.
look at how dark and full all of our hair was back then.
wow.
Hair looks like
What's
Well,
that?
Make sure you email it to me. I'll circulate it.
Do you
Okay.
remember they would search us before we went into grad night? Like you couldn't bring anything in. And I remember, yeah.
Stuff got in.
I don't think it was.
Yes. I was about to say, and I remember.
You guys remember who played at our grad night?
Stuff in.
I was actually thinking about the other day, Craig. It was one of the songs I remember was the one on the "Sitting by the Dock of the Bay." That was one
It's
of
the remix. Yeah, Michael Bolton played at our grad night, but so did Run DMC.
And what?
Run DMC.
No way!
Run DMC.
Oh, I would have used that a lot over the last 30 years.
It was the Run's House tour. We watched it 3 times that night.
Wow.
Greenberg, thank you for putting this together. This was
Thank you.
wonderful.
I'm so glad to see you all. I love this. It makes me feel really good. All right, guys.
Thank you
It's
for not
sweet
telling
to
the
hear-
story
see
about
all
Eric
your
Kramer's
faces.
bar mitzvah.
What's that?
I said, thanks for not telling the story about Eric Kramer's bar mitzvah.
Oh my god, my favorite story ever. I know. I kept it to myself. So good. It's so
Just
funny.
for
You've been telling the
group
story
and not for the video.
in your
So we-
parallel path. Your whole it's the greatest. We'll do it next time. It was
There was there's like a mourner's blessing, and you're supposed to stand up if you're in mourning. We told Rashid you're supposed to stand up, and then when he sat back down, we told him he just converted.
No.
and I had to sit throughout the reception afterwards. I'm like, how the heck am I going to tell my parents that I'm Jewish now? We're not even religious. I'm like, now I'm going to go back and I'm Jewish. What am I going to do? How am I going to tell them? it was after that. Yeah,
Oh, your bar mitzvah was wonderful too.
do what they do. Just do what everyone does. So I love that story. God, I love.
Let's keep that off. Let's keep that off of the public notice.
I'll edit that out.
Oh God.
All right, guys. Have a great evening.
You too.
Nice seeing you
Great
guys.
seeing everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.